Well, a very, very warm welcome to this first conversation for Baby Communication Week 2026. We're so delighted that the week has got underway, and we're really looking forward to all that we have in store to share with you this week, and having the opportunity to really explore and unpack this year's theme, which is seeing the baby. And by seeing the baby, we mean recognizing their communication, um, empathizing with their world, and honoring their individuality. So I am absolutely delighted and honoured to have this very, very special guest joining me for today's conversation as we start to explore this topic, and think about why seeing the baby matters, and how we can actually do that in practice. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me today, for making the time to have this chat. And for those of you, and I don't think there will be many, for those of you that don't know Kevin, Kevin is yeah, very, very special gentleman who has really seen many years through of change in the care for babies, and Kevin was the director for many years of the Brazelton Institute, now the director emeritus. And he co-authored the Neonatal Behavioural Assessment Scale along with Dr. Brazelton, and then developed and was the first author of the Newborn Behavioural Observations system, which both of which tools are used around the world, and are very precious parts of the practice for so many professionals. So with that introduction, which is very, very brief, Kevin, but I really welcome you today.
Sarah, thank you so much, and it's really my pleasure to be talking to you today. I've
Thank
always enjoyed our chats, and
Yes,
if I could add
indeed.
anything to this week, I would be a very happy person.
Thank you.
At least I have the virtue of being the most oldest person in the room, so to
Oh,
speak.
not
Been
at
in the
all.
field for longer than most,
Oh,
so I will have that perspective at least. But I have to tell you, I'm grateful, Sarah. Thanks so much for asking
no,
me.
not at all. Thank you. Well, I've got a number of questions that I would love to ask you today. And yeah, I'm sure you always have such rich, thought-provoking things to share. So I would first like to kind of take us back to um, 50, 60 years ago, um, when uh, when yourself and Dr. Brazelton and other colleagues were kind of first working. And I'm just imagining, when we think about the idea of seeing the baby, from your experience, how were babies typically understood back then? How were they seen sort of 50, 60 years ago?
It's hard to believe, sir. Of course, they were loved. In every culture in the world, babies have always been welcomed and loved.
Yeah.
But our understanding of the nature of the baby was very, very, if you might say, primitive at that time. We thought, for example, babies really couldn't see. They
Mm,
could just see very vague images. And secondly, they couldn't hear. Their ears were still filled with fluid, so they couldn't really hear. And the idea they might have a sense of touch or we probably realized they had a sense of smell, but no real understanding.
mm,
In general, not just the baby didn't have very many competencies, Sarah. We felt
mm,
the babies were just babies, so to speak. And certainly, either professionals in our field, the idea that the baby could have feelings or have thoughts was just beyond our ken.
mm,
And it was only really through Barry Brazelton's really clinical richness and incredible ability to ask questions and observe. Yes, I think that's
Mm,
what Barry Brazelton gave all of us. He said, you've got to just look.
mm,
Take time, stand at the bedside, stand beside the mother, stand beside the baby, stand beside the dad, and just look at what's happening.
mm,
And soon you will realize the baby is actively engaged from the very beginning. But
mm,
the cues are very subtle.
mm.
Obviously, babies can't talk. So it's your challenge to try to, if you like, decipher, understand what the baby is trying to tell us. First, you have to believe babies have something to say.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as Barry's great colleague at that time, Colin Devarthan, said, babies are born storytellers. They have stories to
Mm,
tell. Our goal as parents, professionals, is to try to find out what that story is and to
mm,
listen. So that was it. I think we thought the baby was, people would say, a tabula rasa,
mm,
because the great B.F. Skinner and his theory was in the ascendancy at the time, and they really believed the baby was an empty vessel
mhm.
and parents were ready to shape it any which way. And
Yes,
the idea
yes,
that the baby might have something to add or to bring was just beyond our ken. And it
yes.
was really Barry's wonderful invitation to people like me to
Mm,
join him and observing the baby that gave me a life I could never have imagined.
mm,
And all of us an understanding of babies that we could never have imagined. And that we were, I feel privileged all my life to be with babies and parents at
mm,
that unique moment in their lives, Sarah. But
mm,
that babies, I see, keep thinking of it, looking at my own grandchildren today and babies, they have the capacity to transform you,
mm,
is to change you at all times and to give you a new life.
mm.
Sort of, and that is what they, I think, when I discovered babies. But that was Barry Brazelton's
Yes,
great gift. But
yes.
the key was observing. Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, yeah. It's quite amazing to think now because I think we've become much more familiarized with seeing babies as active participants and all the ways that they're sensing the world and that they're engaging the world. But actually it wasn't in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that long ago that some of those ideas weren't widely accepted and babies
That's right.
were perhaps seen as more passive and like you said, you know, with their senses as well. So I think you have sort of touched on this, but um, uh, in terms of that beginning to have that shift in thinking, um, what kind of things began to challenge those assumptions about babies, and what convinced pioneers like yourself and Dr.
Mm.
Brazelton that babies were um, capable, communicative individuals?
Well, Sarah, a lot of researchers began to really look at babies using classic empirical approaches and using even video, etc., to break down the baby's behaviors so they could study them, if you like, piece by piece. So I think that we realized a while babies could actually hear.
Mm,
And the idea that babies could distinguish sounds,
mm,
and in fact, clearly that they preferred the sound of the human voice
mm,
and that they could, new studies back there in the 80s, uh, identify the fact that babies could distinguish the sound of the mother's voice from that of a stranger's voice. That was quite astonishing to many of us, but it highlighted the fact the baby was already tuned in,
mm,
not just to the ambient environment, but tuned into the specific voice of the parents at that time and could maybe not understand the words, but could understand the tone and
mm,
the rhythms.
mm,
And people like Travolta began to look at the musicality, and
mm,
babies were tuned into this. And for parents, it's so reassuring to know babies can recognize their voices
mm,
and can distinguish their voices from the very first days of life. So that I think was a big discovery in the hearing. And then as for vision, when people began to present different objects to babies to see what they would like, people like Fans and others saw babies could distinguish between complex patterns as opposed to a simple, like the vague pattern behind me, like a nothing pattern. The babies were really making choices. Yes. I
Mm,
think, Sarah, the big thing we discovered that babies were not just could see, but are making choices of what to look at. And if babies were just apparently looking into the distance, there was a purpose behind that. Maybe they
mm,
were taking a time out or looking at something else, but the growing awareness that babies could make choices with what they looked at
mm,
and that they preferred, once again, a human face to a scrambled face.
mm,
And that again, it was the human face that drew them. So there was a vision and auditory, but also the developed sense of touch and awareness of how sensitive they were to touch, how sensitive they were to smell was very active and engaged from the babies could distinguish different smells from the very beginning. So
mm.
all the senses were engaged from the word go, and we
Mhm.
probably had never realized that, Sarah.
Yes.
And bit
Yeah.
by bit, through sheer observation,
Yeah.
and through, in my case, the mentorship of people like Barry Brazelton and Heidi Alls and Constance Kiefer, we began to take time out to just watch and watch and watch. And suddenly, a whole rich vocabulary emerged of behaviors that the baby was using to communicate to the world. Yes.
It's just, yeah, so wonderful to hear, and um
Mm.
all of that work that was done, and the belief behind it that your babies do have so
Yes,
much to show us,
that's
and
right.
that belief being behind all of the hard work of the research
Yes,
that took place, that really, is the foundation of all of
yes.
our understanding and our practice now. So,
Definitely.
I mean, just incredible that yeah, you were part of that, and that's just, yeah,
Well, I
incredible.
felt to
Yeah.
this day, Sarah, I
Mhm.
feel very fortunate. I was with such great giants, really,
Mhm.
and that I was invited in, and I always to the kindness of strangers, as I say, invited in, and then the work began of just systematically observing.
Mhm.
I think the thing Barry added too, I'd like to add, Sarah, that we only learn about babies not just by observing that, but by engaging. And
Yes.
it's only through engaging, then the emotions are involved.
Yeah.
And suddenly everything changes.
Mhm.
And that was Barry's great richness. Because when he first developed the scale, Sarah, people were reluctant to take it on because people were accustomed to having these sober, objective measures of baby behavior. Is the moral present or absent, etc., with a view to seeing if the baby was normal. But Barry wanted to go beyond this. He said there's
Yeah.
a much wider array of behaviors there. And
Mhm.
so he the social behaviors that people had never assumed was part of the baby's repertoire.
Yeah.
So that was baby Barry's contribution, especially that we then began to look at how we engage the baby in
Mhm.
that interpersonal way and know the baby not just as a baby, but as a real person with a personality and with a
Mhm.
disposition, with a temperament. And I
Yes.
think that was the big revolution that changed, it had to change us as well as everything else.
Yeah. Well, that leads beautifully onto my next sort of few questions, actually. Um, so, as part of Baby Communication Week, and we have this overall theme of seeing the baby, and one part of that is being able to recognise babies' communication. So, in what ways does the Brazelton approach, both the MBAS and MBO tools, help us to see and understand babies' communicative abilities?
Well, I think the beauty of the NBAS and the NBO is they give us an entree into the baby's inner life,
Yes,
understand the baby's competencies and intentions.
yes,
And I think that that's the beauty of what the NBAS is. As you administer the NBAS, for example, every second you're learning more about the baby and the response the baby makes, you may change direction. So you
mm,
have to be very flexible. And the old way was you, as I said, you proceeded in a standardized way. Now you're open to being surprised all along
mm,
the way. And I think, as myself, after years of looking at thousands of babies, I continue to be surprised. I said, God, where did she get that? Where did you get that? Had that up their sleeve. A little strategy to engage, disengage. So that I think each time you're looking at a new creation with each NBAS, and that was the beauty of it. There was, and you had to be very open to changing along the way, changing your direction, changing your pattern, and accepting and respecting the baby's responses. And actually, that word, Sarah, would be the key one I think we developed. And I can say I'm grateful for respecting the baby. And you knew by respecting the baby, it gave them a sense of trust that who you are, that I can trust this person really is listening to me, observing me, taking me seriously. To use, if you like, interpret the baby's behavior in that way. But I think then the scale uses motor, autonomic things as subtle as a startle. Nothing is by chance, we saw in the life of the baby. It's all has meaning. Every behavior has meaning. And so whether it's the blinking of an eye or the a fist, tightening of the fist or a frown or a grimace or a shift in posture, all of these are the only way the baby has of telling us this is what I need, and this
Yeah.
is who I am, this is how I feel. So everything as import, that I think was the big thing the NBAS gave us.
Mm.
And then we capitalized on that with the NBO by trying using this information to engage the parents as well as the baby. Yes.
Absolutely. And I think a kind of phrase that you've used before is about that maybe parents wish that their baby came with an instruction manual, but actually it's
That's right.
the baby is the guide, and it's about knowing and believing that the baby can show us how they're feeling, can show us what they need, and that they are the guide.
That's right. I
Yeah.
think we think, for example, that we're the ones teaching the babies,
Mm,
parents we know, but actually the babies are teaching us. And I think that is a key thing. And that's where the beauty takes
mm,
place. As long
mm,
as we're ready to listen and hear,
mm.
then we move forward. Yes.
Absolutely.
And yes.
Um, so another part of seeing the baby is really trying to step into their world. And again, how does the Brazelton approach help us appreciate what life might feel like from a baby's perspective?
Well, you've put it beautifully, Sarah. That's really the question, how to see the world from the baby's perspective. And I think that's it, that before the NBAS, I think, and the NBO, people had no understanding of the inner world of the
Mm,
baby and didn't really realize babies had a rich emotional life. And they felt as deeply as we feel about things. And I think we now know that they have implicit memories of all that's happening, that everything is registering, and that these implicit memories really remain with them throughout life, if you like. And that as much as we try to read them, they are reading us. They approach the most ordinary objects as something to explore, a mystery
mm,
to decipher.
mm,
And I think that's so important. So they remember everything from the touch, the way they're touched, the way they're held, the way they're spoken to. This becomes part of their whole world of expectation. And as
mm,
you said, trying to understand how the baby sees the world and respecting that means we go in as not knowing, as curious, but
mm,
ready to let the baby tell us, as Colin Tortham would have said, to be the storyteller.
mm,
And in the NBAS, the baby story is there as sort of exhibited throughout this. And in the NBO, hopefully, the drawing the family story as well. Indeed, our own story is part of it. We
mm,
are not there as passive, stoic observers. We're there as engaged participants
yeah,
with the baby, with the family. And in many ways, we will be changed by the experience as well as the baby and the parents.
mm,
It's an event that I've always felt will never come back. There's such an important moment in life in the family.
mm,
I feel to this day, I have to say, Sarah, privileged if I'm ever invited to a family at that moment in their lives, because you know in your heart that this is a major transition in
mm,
life,
mm,
maybe for the parents. And if we're privileged to be there, as something to be just accepted with
mm,
deep sense of gratitude
mm,
and a deep sense of responsibility,
mm,
that every moment we're there as witnesses, as support, not as teachers.
mm,
As you said earlier, the baby is the only teacher in the room, and we're there to really draw out what's there and crystallize it perhaps for
mm,
the parents.
mm,
Uh, but in a way, it's their richness that's being unfolded throughout
mm.
the NBO or NBAS session. Yes,
Yes, that's so beautifully said, Kevin, and it makes me think of all the feedback and the that's shared by people that come to train with us in the
sure.
MBAS and the MBO, and how uh, they just find it so incredibly rewarding for their practice, and you know that they see babies in a new light, but also
Sure.
those times that they spend with families and babies, which is, you know, that's their job. So it's something that they're doing day in, day out, but it just gives it a whole new perspective. And though they have met babies before, they haven't met this baby.
It's so beautifully put.
And the Brazelton tools,
Yes,
I think just open up that beautiful experience of being
yes.
able to just start to unpack who this baby is. And actually, I mean, if you could just say very briefly, lastly, about um uh yeah, how the MBAS and the MBO help us to see the baby as an individual person. Um,
Yes, I think that's the whole goal, to see every dimension of the baby, not just the motor system, but the capacity for attention, the capacity of engagement, what upsets the baby, what makes things difficult, what are the challenges. We hope during this small scenario, these things emerge that tell us about who this little baby is. Or if they could speak, this would say, who I am, and this is what I really like. I find this hard, but this, you can see this makes me very pleased. Because all in all, it's the you want to help the baby understand that they are valued, they are respected, they are listened to, and as they are. And for parents, and giving up the fantasies we had, accepting the baby as they are, being such a
mm,
key thing. I think for the parents too, what I see is the privilege I have is being with them, helping them articulate their fears and their hopes in the presence of the baby and inspired by or stimulated by the baby's behavior. And for me to be part of that as a partner, as someone who supports, but never judges
mm,
and never feels anything but privilege.
mm,
And in these moments, hopefully the baby's behavior, the baby as a person will be revealed.
mm,
And we leave, I think you said it, alluded to it earlier, Sarah, and I like it. We're changed. As practitioners, we
mm,
leave the room changed. And hopefully the parents will remember this moment for the rest of the, and I don't doubt that these moments are such a critically emotional moment in the transition to parenthood. If we're present there, we become part of the family story. And
mm.
is that not a privilege?
Absolutely, it really is.
No.
And I think the parents really value that and sense that they're being treated as
Yeah.
an individual, unique family, um, and you know what I'm thinking of when the practitioner comes to meet the family, whatever setting that's in, hopefully by being able um, to get to know that baby as an individual, even just a little bit, some of their care, their advice or support can actually become much more individualized to that baby and that family. So it's yeah, it just gives it a real yeah special touch, I think, that makes parents feel heard and valued just as much as the baby as well.
Well,
Um,
that's
yes,
really beautifully put, Sarah. That's exactly the hope we'd have.
mm,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We're coming near to the end of my questions. I mean, I could talk to you all day, Kevin,
And I
but
could talk to you, Sarah.
but I yeah, just thinking about I think we've probably both touched on this a bit, but if you just had a kind of summarizing thought really about what is it that changes when parents and practitioners begin to truly see babies in these new ways that they're communicating, that they're experiencing the world, and that they're individuals.
And I think that it all yields a sense of trust. And I just like the word trust.
Yeah.
The baby begins to anticipate what this world is like. The world
Mhm.
knows them,
Mhm.
responds to them, as you said, as they are as individuals, as
Mhm.
this little baby. And parents too see the baby responding to them, that they realize the baby is as keen an observer of them as they are of the
Mhm.
baby. And it's a mutual sort of engagement that continues over the course of these early months, weeks, months of life. But the stage is set. It's this newborn period. And I think the genius of the NMAS and the NBO is the timing. It's a moment of great emotional availability,
Yes.
babies and parents. And we have a chance to really focus on the baby at that moment
Mhm.
and hopefully enhance the understanding of parents of the baby, enhance the relationship, and developing that sense of trust that allows the baby then to grow in a way that's trusting, open,
Mhm.
and that sense of that attachment relationship would give the baby a sense of being valued and secure in
Mhm.
themselves. I
Yes.
think that's our
Brilliant.
hope, and I think
Absolutely.
just I never fail to be thrilled at the beauty of this moment in
Mm.
life.
Mm.
And it's a moment
Yeah.
that just, I always think when I meet a family, isn't this moment will never return.
Mhm.
And it's
Yeah.
so sensitive, so central in their lives.
Mm.
So
Yes.
that's the privilege I'd like to emphasize. And I think that I'm glad we got to mention that. Yes.
Yes. No, thank you very, very much. And yeah, we just feel uh, so much gratitude to you and to all your colleagues, and all those years back, all the passion that you had that has, in ways that we probably can't comprehend, has really completely changed how we see babies, and that being put into practice through the Brazelton tools. I mean, and they stretch around the world in every culture and many many countries around the world. So it just shows how um, yeah, kind of how flexible they are, because it's simply about observing of the baby and believing they have so much to show us. And
Yes.
yeah, I just hope that you feel a great sense um
Yes.
of yeah, pride and hope and achievement in that. And yeah, perhaps if there's any sort of closing words that or reflections you'd like to share as we finish today, that would be so
What can I say,
wonderful.
Sarah? I feel lucky and honored, and really that I found this niche in life. And any of you who are looking, who find this niche of working with parents in the perinatal period,
Mhm.
quite, I do believe it's the almost touch point par excellence across the lifespan. I mean, babies can change and develop across the lifespan, from preschool, school, but we think this moment is such a precious opportunity, and that there is so much availability for parents and babies at this stage that all I can say, it gives us a chance for our own a continuous psychological rebirth for ourselves with the breath of hope as we watch this baby and a future that's calling out for to them, and that we are there to witness their emergence and support the parents in this glorious journey they're about to undertake. And all of you who are listening, who are with parents beginning that journey, it's a privilege that few people get, but you're part of that group, and it's a wonderful privilege. That's what I would like to say above all, Sarah. Yes. Yeah.
thank you so much, Kevin. And yeah, just to say for anyone listening in who is perhaps new to hearing about the Brazelton approach and the neonatal behavioural assessment scale, the MBAS, and the newborn behavioural observations system, which we often shorten to the MBO. Um, yeah, please do come and discover more about it. Come and connect with us. If you're in the UK, we have our centre, the Brazelton Centre in the UK, but there are other training sites around the world. But we would, I'd love to tell you more about these approaches and how you can use them in your practice. And yeah, we just hope that you've found something today that has left you kind of inspired. And yeah, please do join us for the rest of the week. We are celebrating Baby Communication Week each day until Friday. And I'll be having some really interesting and thought-provoking conversations with some other guests throughout the week. We will be having a look at perhaps some of the challenges that there may be or barriers to really seeing the baby and thinking about how we can start to go beyond these and yeah, including being able to use the Brazelton approach as a way to see the baby, sometimes in more challenging circumstances for
Yes.
families and for practitioners. So we have lots of interesting things coming up. Please do, yeah, follow us during the week. And yes, we just thank you very much for joining us today. And I would like to just close by yeah, saying once again a very big thank you to Kevin for your time today. It's always a true honour to speak with you. And thank you for accepting my invitation.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's a privilege and to pay tribute to the Brazelton Centre UK for this wonderful week. What a great idea. It's wonderful, Sarah.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And thanks for asking me.
Thank you.
Thank you.